Hey guys, welcome back to Real Estate Steals, Deals, and Opportunities. Today we're going to talk about a very common question I get no matter where I speak and where I travel to. Do you need a real estate license to invest in real estate? And the answer is, we'll find out. This is the number one most commonly asked question, and this is my take. The answer is no. You do not legally need a real estate license to invest in real estate. So I'm going to explain to you why and my take on having the real estate license. So anyone over the age of 18 can buy and sell real property without a real estate license. A common misconception to this statement arises when an investor assigns a contract. Okay, so, a lot of people are like, well, you don't need a real estate license to do your own deals. The fact that you're a party to the transaction is what is exempting you from that. It's when you are not a party to the transaction, but you are putting people together who are buying and selling and getting paid for it. That's what requires you to have the license. All right, so when you introduce a seller and a buyer for a fee, a transaction closes and you are compensated by the seller, then you must have a real estate license. If you are compensated by the buyer in the same situation, you must have a real estate license in order to legally be paid in that, transaction. So when you're the buyer in an executed real estate contract, then you can assign your rights in that contract to another buyer. You are paid by the buyer, not the seller, because the seller already thinks you're buying it. He's already working with you. The contract is assignable. So the seller has already given you permission to assign your rights and interests in that contract to another buyer. So the buyer pays you, and the payment that he makes to you is called an assignment fee. It's common that the assignment fee is actually incorporated into the closing statement and made a part of the money coming to closing by the buyer, and then you're paid by the title company. So it is completely legal to do that type of transaction over and over and over again without a real estate license, because you are not bringing a buyer and seller together to do a transaction and being paid by the seller or the buyer to do it. You have in fact contracted the property, and that contract, that executed contract, is what gives you the legal right to market and sell that property. So again, that fee the buyer pays you is called an assignment fee. It's not a real estate commission. No license is required. I used to teach the only license that you need is your driver's license, right? So you can get to the house to see it. The legal interest in the real property by way of that contract, that signed contract, is what makes this practice absolutely legal. When you buy, fix to flip, and then sell the property yourself, it's your own property, you can do that also without a real estate license. You are the seller, this is your property, and you are selling it to whatever buyer may come along. If that buyer is brought to you by a real estate agent and that real estate agent wants to be compensated by you, well, that's between you and the real estate agent to determine what that compensation looks like. This type of transaction is perfectly legal. An agent may bring you the buyer, and you can agree to compensate that agent, just like I mentioned. All right, so you don't need to be licensed to purchase real property either. So you can go out and, as an unlicensed buyer, buy all the property that you want. Again, there might be a real estate agent involved as a listing agent with the seller, and you might negotiate or work with that listing agent in order to buy the property, and the seller compensates that agent accordingly. It does not affect you. It does not require you to have a license. If you are licensed, then you're legally obligated to disclose that you hold a real estate license when you're communicating with the seller. And in the contract, you legally disclose, you put in writing, hey, I'm buying your property and I have a whatever state license to, real estate license in this state. So you have to disclose that you are licensed when you do have one, okay? So the possible issue that a licensed investor may have when a seller contacts them as an agent not a buyer. This is when this happens, this could create a possible issue. It's a very gray area, and it can go legal, it can go illegal. So in other words, I'm a broker. I'm a real estate broker. I hold a broker's license. I am an investor. People do not call my marketing to list their home. However, if they do, and they call me as a listing agent, and that's the hat that I'm wearing, then I speak to them as a listing agent. I don't try to buy their home, okay? But more than likely, 99.9% of the time, the leads that come into me are for my company, buybyhome.com, and I am attracting sellers who want to sell their property directly to me, not list their property. So when those phone calls come in, during the conversation, I mentioned that I'm a licensed broker. I am not talking to them about listing their home. However, they called me to buy it, and that's what I'm interested in doing. And so that's where a lot of people can get themselves in trouble, because they will take someone who's called them to list their property and say, well, I don't really know what it's worth. I'll take $50,000. And then the investor hat comes on immediately. It's $50,000. I'll go buy that myself. But if they've called you as a listing agent, you have a different duty to them. You're obligated, what's called a fiduciary duty, to let them know what their home is really worth, bring them the highest and best offers, and work it as an agent. So you have to be careful to have enough integrity to work the leads as they come in, the way that they come in. So like I said, I'm not interested in doing listings, so I do not advertise that I do listings. It would be very rare that a typical seller would call me to list their home. However, the tables turn a different way. As a licensed broker, I may take a lead from a seller. They've called my company, one of my companies, to buy their home. However, they owe more than it's worth. It's in nicer shape than they're not in distress. They're just looking for a cash offer. Well, my cash offers, are not going to be anywhere close to what they can take or what they would take. Now, in that case, I can say, well, you know what I can do for you? I'm not your buyer. We're not, compatible in that relationship. However, I would be willing to list your home because, you're not in a distress. It's worth more than you owe. And, I can definitely list your home. So I can go from a buyer to a listing agent, but it's very tricky to go from a listing agent to a buyer. So I shy away from that altogether. I don't ever want to put myself in a situation where I even look like I did something that I shouldn't. And so I would just, hey, wash my hands of it. It doesn't matter how much profit's on the table. There are always those situations where someone says, I don't care. I don't want to list it. I want you to buy it, and then you have an attorney draw, a nice form that they sign. Hey, I refuse to list my property with them. I realize I'm selling it at a discount and I don't care. And so you could have those instances as well. I'm just giving you the different scenarios, and I want you to always protect yourself. Okay, so it's my personal opinion that obtaining your real estate license does help you become a better real estate investor, earning more potential, a lot of more earning potential. So I advise all my students to get their real estate license. I feel that it is worth it to have the real estate license. You have access to so much more information, real estate education, networking opportunities. You have the opportunity now to also, it's not just your own deals that you can make, that you're limited to making money on, but now you do have the legal right to say, hey, this investor has tied up this property that I think I have another buyer for. But without a real estate license, I can't put them together and be compensated unless I agree to buy that home. And then I take my rights and interests and assign it to this other buyer. But I don't even know if he'll want it or not. So I'm taking a risk to do that. And so this alleviates that situation and allows you to legally be paid to now take the parties that you have relationships with and begin to put them together for compensation. And so that, to me, is a great reason to have that real estate license, in addition to, of course, access to the MLS, which is a phenomenal technology. And so, some investors do feel it's not worth the extra effort or expense to get the real estate license. You really have to decide this on your own. The one caveat I want to remind you is that if you do hold a real estate license, you are obligated to disclose that as soon as you can in a relationship with a potential seller, and especially in your contracts. You can never forget to disclose these things. Okay, but I am a big believer in getting your real estate license because I do believe it makes you more successful. So just to reiterate and wrap up, you do not need a real estate license to be an investor. I do, my personal opinion, believe that it does allow you to become more successful sooner, make money sooner in the investment arena. So I encourage you to get one. Okay, so as long as you have a legal interest in that piece of real estate, an executed contract gives you that legal interest, that gives you enough legal right to now market that property to others that you want to assign your contract to, or you do whatever you're going to do with it. Okay, so I hope that that helps you clarify whether you need a license or not, and if you should possibly go get one. If you want to find us, we are here in South Florida. We cater to investors, and if you're interested in buying South Florida wholesale properties, we encourage you to reach out to us, email us, check out our services at our website, 32 West Realty, and we look forward to talking to you. And if you've enjoyed what you learned about whether you need a real estate license or not, or if anyone needs one to invest, then I hope you learned about that now. And we invite you to learn more about real estate investing and other amazing topics online with interactive video conference classes. And you can do that at learnfromgreen.com. We are big believers in the fact that when you increase your knowledge, you increase your income. So thanks for tuning in today. I hope you learned some great valuable information that helps you invest. And thanks for tuning in.